Welcome to Prepare for Takeoff. I'm the creator and host, Terry L. Cyrus. We're the podcast dedicated to amplifying Black excellence. Every week, we sit down with a proven professional or rising entrepreneur. This week, we're sitting down with entrepreneur, author, speaker, district athletic director, and my fraternity brother. Give it up for Steve Robinson. What's up, team?
What's going on, dog? How you feeling today?
I'm blessed and highly favored, especially when I'm with the bros, man.
Yes, indeed. It's always a great thing, right?
Absolutely, man. Bro, I've been watching you from afar. You know, you're in the Southeast, I'm in the Northeast, but courtesy of the internet, social media, and then the good bro spreading the good word about all of the things that you're doing in the greater Charlotte area. So I just wanted to salute to you, give you your flowers. They're much deserved and you've earned them. And a lot of people, they ask, how do people represent Black excellence? Because that's a broad term. Black excellence is something that is earned over a period of time. It's something that others, they will bestow that on you based on what it is you managed to achieve. And bro, that definitely, represents you. You're truly the embodiment of that. So with all that being said, how did it all start? I know, like myself, you're born and raised in West Virginia. So let's share with the viewers and listeners what it was like for you growing up in West Virginia.
The wild, wonderful, man. The wild and wonderful. Harlem Heights, Oak Hill, West Virginia. Man, coming up, I tell people all the time, I love being from West Virginia, and I love telling people I'm from West Virginia because the way we came up, as you know, we learned things a lot different. It wasn't hidden. It was in our face. We know what it was, and we knew how to adjust and make things happen. Being from West Virginia and then coming into places like Charlotte and traveling the country, even traveling the world at times, it's been an amazing thing. And it all started back coming out of Oak Hill, West Virginia.
And that's what's up. So now, growing up in Oak Hill, I have family there. We have a lot of people in common. Family, of course, fraternity brothers. Then your brother, he's the bruz. My brother's a bruh. So we share a lot of those things in common. At some point, you left Oak Hill and then you transitioned to Marshall, correct?
Yes, indeed. Huntington, West Virginia. You know, that helped mold the person I am today. I loved going to Marshall University. It was a beautiful thing. A lot of people, either when you graduated, so some either went to state, some went to Morgantown to WVU, and then others went down to Marshall. So I was the one that went to Marshall. I wanted to go down to be a part of the herd. I loved every minute of being in Huntington. A lot to learn. It's a great city to be in. It's actually growing a lot more now, and a lot more things are changing. But being at Marshall during those times, of course, the Bruz, then coming to, West Virginia State is right up the street all the time. So you were in a central location. I figured to go from either Huntington down to Kentucky, or if you can go up to Columbus, you can go to Ohio, you can go to State, you can go to Morgantown. You were centrally located for the most part, where the most you're going to drive is maybe 3 hours at the top. So it was a great place to be, and everybody came down to Huntington because a lot was going on. Of course, everybody know the football eras of the 90s was something major. And then, of course, the Greek life was really good at the time.
I definitely agree with all of the fond memories I have with road trips that we took down to Huntington, down to the Yard, Marshall University, going to Concepts 2000. And
Yeah.
And shout out to my man. He was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, and he used to bring the Bruz down. We used to have Purple Friday. And we was like, so what do you want us to do? He was just basically like, look, man, just be yourselves. Just do what you do.
Just be the brother.
Bruz was like, just be the bruz. That's easy. The connection with him was his brother was a bruz. So he was a Kappa and his brother was a Q. I forget the guy. I forget his name. We're going back over 30 years, man.
Maybe Barry Rush. Probably Barry Rush. I think at the time may have been the person that owned Concepts, because we was going to Concepts when I was still in high school, sneaking down during the game time, because back then you had JV girls board, then JV varsity. So, you had like a 4 or 5 hour window. So you take off, shoot down to Huntington and party and be back home about before 2 o'clock. Like, you wasn't even in trouble. So it all worked out.
So at some point you pledged in Nu Beta. What was that experience like? And how did the fraternity help shape you to become the man that you are today?
Well, that started even back before Nu Beta, because that started when Mom was in, of course, Mark Jasper, my Nu Beta bro, and then Juan Jasper, they decided your chapter, bro. During the time that my mother was finishing up school and doing different things in school, she would come down and have to take classes on Saturday because she worked all week. So Juan and them and the bruh stayed across from, I think where East Hall was, maybe. I don't know where that apartment was back there, but she would drop us off over there in the morning. Well, the beautiful part about it, we get there, we young. we get up, they out there painting the boots for the show in the morning. So I get to sit outside and watch all of those type of things. And then you have people like Joe Bundy, who was out of Bluefield, was very important in life as well. So it was a lot of that shaped it, being from West Virginia anyway. So a lot of the brothers, of course, were all, I figure, nephews and sons of Dr. Byers, the R. Charles Byers. So he was a very influential person in our lives as well. So that took the mold of what you needed to do and what you wanted to do by the time. And then, of course, everything else began to roll after that.
The brotherhood that we're so blessed to have and to know gives us the opportunity to pool our resources, if you will. And I think what we want to do as a community, we want to pool our resources. And the resources that I have happens to be media. And I can shine a light on all of the great things that not just people in our fraternity are doing, but just people in the D9, people who represent the HBCU community, and just, Black folk in general. Because I think a lot of times when you think of how we're portrayed in the media, sad but unfortunately true, there's a lot of propaganda that's fed to us every day. When you watch the news, you're seeing that brother get locked up. You're seeing that brother get in a set of circumstances that doesn't paint us in a favorable position. But if you run the statistics, Black people get locked up at the same rate that white people do. Now, we may be incarcerated at a higher rate, but as far as crimes being committed, they're being committed at around the same rate. But why is it that they're not captured the same? Why is it that the media is always trying to remind us of who we are based on their perception? But the reality of it is this, man, who we really are is the people that are the leaders of industry, the people who had invented things that they oftentimes didn't get the credit for inventing, the people who are the authors of civilization. That's who we really are. Who we really are is individuals that, despite the circumstances we may find ourselves in, despite how many stumbling blocks we may have to overcome, we still find a way to succeed. That's who we really are. And you and I, let's face it, there's a lot of people from West Virginia that they may have succumbed to the mindset of my reality is based on my exposure. And a lot of people I know growing up, we would always hear, oh man, it's bad in the city. The city could be anywhere. It didn't matter what city. But here's the thing. That was those people's perception. And I get how and why that is. Looking back on it now that I'm a wiser, older person, that when you would go visit your family, whether it was in Cleveland, St. Louis, any of the places that people went to seek opportunity, if you went to seek opportunity with no education, then you're going to find yourself in a set of circumstances that may be sketchy. So now when you would go visit those family members, that would be your perception of that entire region. Oh, it's bad there. Oh, you don't want to go there. It's bad. Rather than say they're just in a bad set of circumstances. And then I do believe that in our generation, as we begin to educate ourselves at a higher rate, we begin to find ourselves leaving West Virginia. And we were able to enjoy a different reality. No matter what city we found ourselves in, because of our education, we had a certain aptitude that allowed us to live a certain standard. And therefore, our floor was a lot higher than our predecessors. I'm all about showing people who you can be. Some of the people may not necessarily know their reality to be what mine is. I talk to people all the time that I'm sure at one point in time, like if someone told me that they had those same conversations I found myself having, I might question and even say they were capping.
Yeah.
But that's my reality as I know it. And never am I trying to brag. I'm trying to inspire. I'm trying to inspire people because everybody, especially people from back home, they know I'm no different than they are. And if nothing else, if I can do it, so too can they. So, bruh, so with all that being said, being an enterprising entrepreneur, that wasn't something that started in Charlotte. You was that in West Virginia. How did that come about? And what drove that decision to become an entrepreneur and just kind of forge your own path?
That started again when being from West Virginia, and actually what happened was I was going to Columbus a lot because it's where my father lived, and my middle brother who had passed away. We were going up there all the time, and I was seeing that we would go by the flea market, and I was like, man, they selling stuff. So I said, well, I'm gonna take some stuff back. I took some stuff back, and sold some. I said, man, I'm gonna do it again, and so that wound up turning into a shop. Had a little shop, a little boutique in Huntington that we had for a little while, and then got into the parties, throwing party, becoming a party promoter, and having different parties. So it used to be the Holiday Inn. They had changed it to an apartment thing, but before they changed it, I used to rent out. I started with just 2 rooms, a double room that was connected, then charge people for that. And then I said, well, shoot, I figured this out. So the next time The manager was like, well, listen, nobody's using the restaurant part downstairs. You can get that. So it went into that. And the next thing you know, it went from one thing to another. And then being able to take a chance. I've always been considered, I do a risk taker, but I've become more of a calculated risk taker now as you get older and a little bit more wiser, just like with moving here to Charlotte. And we'll get into that. But just going after it, just being able to go after it, controlling your own narrative. It was a lot that my mother, she raised three boys. It was three of us. And it was basically controlling our own narrative, believing in God, trusting in God, putting your faith forward and going forward in life. And that's why, my why now, people say, well, what is your why? My why is to be a laborer across someone else's path, because that was the thing my mother always did for others. I used to always be like, we don't have it. Why are you helping everyone else? And she said, son, I do it because one day somebody can help you do something that I couldn't tell you about. So that's why my why became to be a laborer across someone else's path to help them get along. So from that to the stores, to running a nightclub, to writing a book when I got here, those are the things that started. But if it wasn't for that foundation of the community, of those just around you, seeing other people older than you make things happen, seeing bros in different places, like you can make it happen. But it's like you said, they can paint a picture, but you got to control your own narrative. You got to control your narrative that you want to be put out. You can't allow someone else to put that out or put that over top of you. Yes, but it's just like us being from West Virginia, because the first place they say, well, it's black people in West Virginia.
Right.
And, like, well, you got to understand, people had to somewhere to stop before they went up to the north. Y'all had to stop somewhere. So it's a lot. I was like, probably half your family you don't even know is probably from there. So those are the type of things that I love that was being instilled in me growing up, being able to show a different side of what you wanted to do, but not being afraid of failure. A lot of times, like my daughter now, she's down in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, doing a hair salon. You can't be afraid of failure, man. You can't be afraid of something going wrong. You got to be able to be okay with you every night when you lay down and say, hey, you know what? I gave it my best. And some days you don't give it your best. On the days you don't give it your best, that's all right too. It's going to be some days that's not well, and then you're going to have some days that's better than others. So you keep pushing it. You control your own narrative, and you put your best foot out first.
Look, let me offer my condolences to your brother's passing, and I'm sure he's in heaven smiling and looking down on you and extremely proud of all of your continued accomplishments. But I agree, man. I think that what we have to do is, in this thing called life, we have to put our best foot forward. We can't play to lose. We got to play to win. And more importantly, we can't play hurt. So at the end of the day, people only know what we share with them. There's a lot of people hurting internally and they don't necessarily let people know. Or there's a lot of things that people want to do, but again, they don't let people know. I'm a huge subscriber to the African proverb. If you want to go somewhere fast, you can go alone. If you want to go somewhere far, you got to go with others. So you have to incorporate other people into your journey. And more importantly, fall in love with the journey, not the destination. Because to your mother's point, you're going to learn things along the way. And you have to be willing to pour into people, because at some point, someone's going to have to pour into you. So I'm always willing to pour into others because someone has poured into me in the past, and hopefully they will continue to pour into me in the future. And I think that we have to just be those shining examples of what you can do if you dare to dream. You can't be afraid to jump. You have to make the jump. And one of the things that kind of negates that fear, in my opinion, is having had the gumption to do what most people wouldn't do, and that's pledging. And you talking about somebody that pledged in 91, and I went online at 18. So that was something that some of my friends, they were afraid to do it. And some of them never did it. So I say that for a reason, because a lot of people, they will tell you what they want to do, but then when it's all said and done, they won't do the things that they say they want to do. And now you don't want to have your success. You don't want your outcome to be tied to someone else based on what they do. That's what it is to lead. And you lead by, like you said, being at peace, finding peace with the decisions you made that day. And so when you lay down, you have peace of mind. I think that if we don't do that, we will eventually learn to regret that later in life. If you don't want to succeed for yourself, why don't you succeed so that your children can benefit? Why don't you succeed so your parents can, if you're blessed enough to still have your parents, if your parents can benefit from, your drive and determination. We all had parents or parental figures who had drive, which is why we are where we find ourselves because we're standing on the shoulders of the sacrifices that other people have made, sacrifices that your mother's made, sacrifices that my parents have made. So those sacrifices can't be all for nothing. Like
No,
they
that's right.
sacrifice so we can succeed. So what
Right.
we have to do is we have to be comfortable in what it is we say we want. If I want to be successful, then I have to do the things that will allow me to be successful. And then if my daughter, if they see us being successful based on our actions, then they will follow suit. We're giving them a blueprint.
Talking about that blueprint, a lot of times I ask when I'm talking to young people now, which what I do a lot of, being the district athletic director over Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, we're the 16th largest in the country. There's over 10,000 athletes that you're working with. But when you're talking to people, a lot of times I ask them, like, what is your GDA? And they was like, your GDA? Yeah, like your GDA, goal directed activities. What activities are you doing to take you in the direction of your goal? A lot of times we'll get caught up into that. You got to have your GDAs right. What activities am I doing? Is this if me doing this, is that going to take me in that direction of that goal? Then if it's not, then we might have to pivot and say we got to switch up what we're doing in order to reach that goal. So when you're reaching out for different goals and being okay with, hey, having a mistake here or making a failure or having a failure moment to where it's like, man, I wish I would have did this. You can't live with regret, because the two greatest things that I realized I got now, team, is time and peace. And the reason I say time and peace, because I can't get neither one of those back. You can't take back time and you can't get back a peace of mind. So rather than anything for me, I'd rather just have time and peace. That's why I won't negotiate it. I won't negotiate my peace or my time with anything that's not going to be beneficial to me, because I cannot afford to lose that time because I'll never get it back again. And you're
Right.
like, man, I wasted time going over here. Man, I wasted time doing this. Well, that was because you chose to.
You casually mentioned that, oh yeah, I'm the district athletic director. I know that's a big deal, and that's a sizable district, and all of the kids that you influence. I don't know what led to your move to Charlotte. Was it because you felt as though you hit a ceiling, or was it an opportunity that brought you to Charlotte?
I'm gonna be honest with you, dog. In high school, you get your senior books, right? And it's crazy because I got it and I show people to this day. I wrote in there to move to Charlotte, North Carolina. At the time, I had never been here, and I don't even know why I picked Charlotte, North Carolina. So as part of speaking things into existence that you didn't even realize. So when I came to Charlotte, it was more of a thing of I was running the club there. I was having my nightclubs and throwing parties. I'm gonna go do it in Charlotte. I can go do it anywhere. But I knew I had a master's degree regardless. So I could come down here, and I'm the type that's like this. I can send you my resume, but you might get 100 resumes a day. But if I can get myself in front of you, I can sell myself. So I came, I threw a party. I threw a couple of parties in Huntington and left. I ain't had no job. I had some partners here that wound up staying with them for a little bit. I just came by myself first. And within the first 2 weeks, I went in and got a job, worked in the mental health field for a long time. And coming in with a master's degree, it put you in a different level, like what you were doing. But I was working with kids. I did have that knack of working with young people and helping them out before I got into that school system part. So part of it was I had a lot of friends. Of course, I think in West Virginia, I used to always say when people leave West Virginia, they either go to North Carolina or Columbus. They were in the one.
Right.
That's where most of the people are at. So there was a lot of people here to help me out when I first got here, help me get started on my feet. That was one of the things that I wanted to do. So continuing to help young people, help them get started. And one thing led to another. Opened up a cleaning company because one of the bros here that used to play for the Panthers, we used to be over his house and I used to talk trash to him all the time. And he'd be like, man, quit talking about my place. Why don't you clean it up? I said, well, you paid me and I'm going to clean it. So I did it. And then the next thing I know, it was like she like my sister. She's from West Virginia too. She ran an apartment complex. And that was my first gigs. I started out doing houses, and then one thing led to another, and then opened up my own cleaning company and started traveling around Charlotte just doing that. And it opened up other doors to the point to where I lost the contract, which is I'm getting how I led into school. I lost the contract and I said, well, I got to make up some money from here somewhere. And I went into school as a behavior modification tech, just to go in there, just to help kids that was in trouble, talking to them. And my boss now, who was the principal, she was like, listen, I need you to stay in this building. I was like, okay, how? They cutting the position. It was like, well, you can teach. And, coming from where I'm from, teaching is math, science, English. I don't like none of them. And I was not trying to do anything dealing with that. But I didn't realize what career and technical education, having a business background, that you could come in lateral and go into basically I taught business and entrepreneurship. So that was like right up my alley. And then as the athletic director, well, I didn't know what an athletic director was. Coming from West Virginia, there were no black athletic directors in West Virginia. I don't think it was none any at that time. I know it couldn't
Mm-mm.
have been. And most of them were principals. So my principal was the AD, which I found out years later. And when I got here in Charlotte, so it's 21 high schools. It was at the time it was 19 high schools, 48 middle schools. Well, there were about 7 or 8 black ADs, and I was like, man, how y'all get in that position? So it was real intriguing to me because you're leaving the coaching side, but you're going into like coaching coaches and mentoring coaches and dealing with parents and dealing with events. So event planning, what you did from the nightclub, owning the store, is basically you're setting up those type of things. So I became the assistant one semester, and I was on spring break, and the principal called me and said, I need you to get the stuff together because when you come back, you're going to take over. And I was like, okay, so I went into that. And then like now I'm the vice president of the North Carolina Athletic Directors Association. I serve on the national board as a trainer. So one thing led to another that kept growing it. But being in Charlotte, which like I said is the 16th largest, but you're talking over 10,000 athletes, 21 high schools, 48 middle schools, helping set up and being a support system to different athletic directors as they put their vision aligned. So my goal was align my vision with my director and then with the principal at the time, and then you put your piece into it. So you make sure that you be a servant. Your servant leadership is you be a servant, and then you create yours as well. So being able to be trusted by your leadership to do what you need to do is a huge task because again, it's a lot of moving parts going on here in Charlotte when you start dealing with that many athletic programs.
Down south in general, sports is a big thing.
That's huge. Huge.
you know,
It's,
so to
it's
so so
real.
to be integrated into athletics in the South is a whole different deal than in some other parts of the country. And I just know that the hotbed that it serves as far as athletics, not just football, but then your Tobacco Road and all of that. You think of UNC, Duke, and to know that your finger is on the pulse of the pipeline that may lead some of those children to attend school at Duke, UNC, or NC State, because NC State they went on a run last year, and
Man.
and then that's just in the Carolinas. I mean, plus Clemson is coming up, but then the ACC as a whole. I know the ACC is based in Charlotte. So as it relates to colleges, because I know I'm kind of referenced a few to say the least. Now,
Yes.
what kind of interaction or do you interface with collegiate athletics? From in your position.
For the most part, when it comes to that, it's pretty much, of course, making sure that we have the programs to help them able to make sure they are ready to go play college. When we're dealing anything with colleges, it is more of, finding the opportunities, help bringing the opportunities to us. We don't deal with them on a face-to-face basis, but we're always going to different things that they have or different functions that they have through different partnerships just to see, what's next. Now, the AD side of the college life, that's a whole nother ball game what they do. But this side of it is basically you're talking about. We have, and I have the numbers. I think we had, over 200 athletes that went, student athletes that had scholarships, full rides. I mean, you're talking like going to different places for all sports, not football, basketball, swim. We've had several in the Olympics this year. We had a couple of young ladies that was from Charlotte that was on Olympic teams this year. So there's a lot of things that go on with the athletic world that open up different, because it's not just sports. It's a platform like we have where we have our student athlete advisory committee where they are doing things like this, doing podcasts. They are going out recording the games and becoming the commentators for the games or putting the videos together, even down to middle school championships. Something that started this is going to year 2 is to start middle school championships, So that is something big to have our student athletes, because 2 things it does for me. It keeps you, one, you got to keep the grades to play, but it gives you something to play for within the city. So that is a big thing, and they love it. And I mean, like I said, it takes off and it creates its own thing. It's like you're creating the narrative for them to be able to grow and become successful.
That's dope, man. Now you're doing that. You're shaping the minds of our future leaders in a major way. And you had mentioned that you also have a vice president position.
Yeah, so the state of North Carolina, the North Carolina Athletic Directors Association, that is athletic directors. You're talking over 300 schools across the state of North Carolina where we go. We have different conferences. We do different personal development trainings. Being able to be a voice for the athletic directors because a lot of times you don't really see the AD. You don't understand how the games get put together, who sets up the bus, who does all of these things. Well, now to be a support system as a whole wide and being the national mentoring chair for 7 states, which I call it the Southeast. I call it the SEC of the NIAAA. So you're talking about North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. Let me see who I'm missing, but it's like 7 of us that is in that region. So that region and being the mentoring chair. So now you're being able to be a voice or to help others in other states that's getting into the athletic director world. That is a game changer. Being keynote speakers at different events, different conferences throughout the country. That's been a beautiful thing, and it's all a blessing from above, man. It's nothing that I've done, team, and you know as well as I know. The more we get out the way, the more He open up the way. So it is done more. And I won't quote all the scriptures. I leave that to Shannon and my mama since they're the pastors. But I know where my source comes from.
You said it, bro. This is, by the grace of God, your reality to be what it is. You're talking about somebody from Oak Hill, went to Huntington, was always an entrepreneur in his heart of hearts. And more importantly, you had the vision of an entrepreneur. So then you knew, because of who I am and whose I am, I can succeed anywhere. I want to go to Charlotte. There's more opportunity there. And you're not just surviving, you're thriving in Charlotte. And then everybody that's listening and watching the podcast, they clearly see you have the gift of gab. So I can see how and why that somebody would want you to touch that stage and share your story, man. Now, keep in mind, your mom's a pastor, your brother's a pastor, so being articulate is probably in the family. But with all that being said, did you always also want to be a speaker?
No, heck no. There's not a vision board that can show you athletic directors, none of that stuff. None of those things are still going to come, but no, because it was a thing where mom used to have to tell when I was young, boy, you need to speak up. Boy, you need to look them in the eyes, somebody in the eye when you talk. Boy, you're talking low. All of that stuff, and some years ago, I remember she said, there's one thing I used to couldn't get you to talk, she said, no, I can't get you to be quiet. So it was something amazing where and I think what it was is probably just learning the discernment, just watching, doing a lot of watching and paying attention. No, that wasn't part of it. The speaking thing came about when I got into the book. When I was putting my book together, Prayer, Patience, Progress, which I'll show you that right there. And that right there. When I put that together, speaking became as part of basically the credibility, to be adding credibility to it. So I started out with my son's school, like just talking about bullying. And then Patrick Patterson, who does a fatherhood program down in South Carolina, I got with him and was able to, do a couple breakout sessions. And then things started to grow and being able to talk. And so I realized, and this is what happens with a lot of us, when we don't give our gift to someone else, we're blocking other people's blessings. Because the gift that you have or what you do, like this platform you have now, you're opening up for so many other people to be seen, to be heard. That is opening up for someone else to see. So when you don't do the gift that you got, we messing it up for somebody else and don't even realize it. Because they see you do it or because you're able to do that, that is helping somebody else say, you know what, I can do that. And even if it's not the same way, I would do it like this, would do it that way. Find a new way to do it. So, no, speaking, putting a book together, none of that stuff. When I tell you none of that stuff, if it was up to me, I'd probably still be throwing parties. I mean, that's what I was wanting to do. Listen, it was so off the chain because when Shannon became a pastor and I was throwing parties from Huntington all the way back home to Oak Hill, I throw a party on Saturday night. At the end of the night, tell them go to church with Shannon, go see my brother the next day. I mean, the platform is different. My gift was different. It wasn't for me to go do that. So I say, but everything is different and you got to embrace who you are and what you got going on for you. And don't worry about what somebody else thinks to say, because at the end of the day, they're going to talk about you regardless. It's just up to you to go after what you want. And then if you lay down and you good, then that's all that matters.
Right. Between you and the man above.
That's it.
As long as you good and he's good with what it is you're doing, then you're good.
At least I don't know of a team, but even when we ain't good, when we don't do what we supposed to do, when he got his hand on us sometimes, because it'd be like, boy, I tried to tell you the last time. But that's the beautiful thing about it. And and just living life, man, just going after life. Like I said, when I lost my brother and my father, like, within a couple of years of each other, I really, man, this thing out here is short. I'm
Mhm.
gonna live life without regrets because this thing is short and it can be gone tomorrow at any moment. Things can happen and change at the drop of a dime. So you got to go live your best life. You got to go enjoy life, make the most of it, and be okay when things don't go right.
Right. I agree, bro. So it seems like to me, from what you just unpacked, so the book came before the speaking opportunities, or did they come around the
It
same
came
time
around,
organically?
so the book was being worked on. The book came out in 2015, and that's when I started getting into it. So I figured that could add some more credit. They could kind of feed each other, like, okay, it's an author, you got a book to go with it, not realizing what the book was going to do and take to another level. Because again, my thinking, I'm gonna just put this and do this, and it's gonna open up this. Where I took it and spin it into this, and it's like, wait a minute. So you asked for it, and now here it is, and you trying to slow down. You don't realize. So we got to be careful or be ready. Not be careful. You got to be
Mhm.
ready for when you ask for it because you don't know when that package is going to arrive to say it's getting ready to open up. It's getting ready to take you into. It's going to open you and put you in places that you had no idea about. For me to travel and do things that I've done and been blessed to do, I didn't know that. I didn't know that I was going to be going to all of these different places to talk and help somebody else. But the key thing was help someone else. When you can get a call or a text and say, hey, I still read your book every day, or hey, your book is on my nightstand, or even like with Coach Jack, with Cornelius. Like, Cornelius is like my baby brother. If you walk into his basketball office at Marshall, he got the book sitting there.
One of the things that has really helped me is relationships.
Yeah.
And courtesy of the bros, I've been able to inherit a lot of relationships. And not being from the metropolitan area, New York, New Jersey, being from West Virginia, all of my friends, I'd say at a rate of maybe 90%, for a long time was the bros. And the bros put me in a position to win. When I wanted to become an entrepreneur and when I wanted to transition into the business of music, entertainment as a whole, the bros was a big part of that. And one of my bros, shout out to Paul Estevez, new chapter bruh, he worked at Esco, Willie Esco to be exact. And man, Esco was on top of the world. Nas was their spokesmodel. Their sister company was Fubu. And I remember meeting him at the Epsilon boat ride. He was like, yeah, bro, you're a manager. That's what's up. Well, we're in the process of launching a label because a lot of people from music, they were starting apparel lines. So some of the people from the apparel side, they said, we're going to start record labels. Fubu had done it, and they were in the process of doing it. So just on the strength of being the bros and having some prior experience, and I say prior, like 6 months.
Like fire, right.
Yeah, immediately, man, I became an A&R. But then that opportunity to work with bruh led to me becoming an A&R consultant, which led to me becoming a consultant and working with the likes of Walter Yetnikoff, who at one point in time, he was the most powerful person in the music business. Walter Yetnikoff is the former president and CEO of CBS Records, which was the parent company of Columbia Records, Epic Records. So you know it to be Sony, which it serves as a parent company of Columbia and Epic, and I think Sony 550 as well. Well, the reason why you know it to be Sony is because he engineered the sale of the company for $2 billion.
Good. That's great.
And that was in 89.
Wow.
So think of all of the people we grew up on their music. Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel, maybe not so much Ozzy Osbourne and Barbra Streisand, but they
Right.
was all signed to
That
him.
was
Def Jam, they got their deal from him. Philadelphia International Records, they got their deal with him, so on and so forth. So at one point in time, he was in control of the largest record label in the business. And then he engineered the sale of the record label and it became Sony. But there was a time in which, bro, I went from the dude who had enough nerve to jump off the stoop and introduce himself as a manager, even though I really didn't have any experience. I would introduce myself as somebody with a management company that's in the process of expanding their roster. Bro, I didn't have a roster.
Yeah.
Had never
Yeah.
had a roster,
Yeah.
right?
Making
So
it
you have to
happen.
believe it. If you don't believe it, no one else is going to believe it,
Everybody
right?
believing it.
I went from being that person trying to find myself in the know to being in a position that Walter the one day asking me when we were working together, he was like, man, Cyrus, is there anyone you don't know? I said, Walter, if I don't know him, I can get to him.
Yeah, that's the way to be.
So
That's the way to be too.
that's how we got to be, man. And I remember pulling up on people at the club, the tunnel. It was notorious, the tunnel in New York City. I remember running into Leroy Cohen at the time. He was the CEO of Def Jam. I would just run up on people. I was like, Leroy, I need that meeting. What's up?
Yeah.
Bruh, I had nothing to meet with him about. So I've always been the person that I'm like, I'm the bruh. So we lead as we close out. I want to give you the opportunity to share with our viewers and listeners 3 things that you feel will help them prepare for takeoff.
3 things that I would give them. And first of all, I want to say thank you for this opportunity. This has been a great time. I love it, Doug. And again, I wish you continued success. The 3 things I would love to tell anybody, and I would tell anybody, is this: adjust, adapt, overcome. Be prepared to adjust, adapt, and overcome. And that was something that I started during COVID, because when COVID hit, they shut down sports. And we shut down sports in the South. That was, we were out of school. They let us come back in. They shut down that football season in the fall. They said you can have it in the spring. But they said in order for this to happen, you got to do all of these things, which means you got to break up into pods. You got to check kids every day. You got to do this. You got to do. And so the coaches was like blanking. And so by the time I finished the meeting and went home before I could take it to my coaches, I was like, man, I know they're going to complain about this. But the one thing that was just sitting there and it just came was like, Steve, adjust, adapt, overcome. So when I went into the meeting, I started it out with adjust, adapt, overcome. It was like, what you talking about? I said, in order for us to have this season, we're going to have to adjust, adapt, and overcome. You adjust to the things that's going on. We got to adapt to this new way we adjust, and we just got to overcome. So I tell anybody, as they planning to take off, you got to adjust, adapt, and overcome. And those 3 things will take you on to your next steps in life.
I wanted to give you your virtual flowers. You deserve those, man. A lot of times in our community, we don't give each other their flowers enough. A lot of times we wait until it's too late and they're going on to meet our higher power and our maker. And then we want to celebrate them in their absence. I want to celebrate all of the people that's in my circle, as well as in the greater community as we know it to be, as it relates to those who represent Black excellence and also those who are looking to figure out what they can do to represent Black excellence. The whole thing that I want to do is to inspire people to get them to understand. Many of the people that I have on as guests, their beginnings were very similar to yours, and they just continue to ascend. They just continue to take off. So whether you represent what many of our guests represent, such as yourself, man, I want our viewers and listeners to understand that if we can do it, you can do it. And that's what it's about, man. It's really a matter of being able to change the narrative, as you mentioned, and be able to shape it in such a way that people can draw inspiration from other people's success. And instead of being haters, be congratulators.
Yes.
And if we do that, we will all be better for it, because as a community, we will be able to celebrate all of our wins and minimize our losses. I wanted to thank you for spending so much time with us and give you the opportunity to share some of your social media handles, website, whatever you feel comfortable with sharing with our viewers and listeners, so they can continue to watch you on your ascent.
So on Instagram, Steve Robinson, the speaker. On Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, AD Steve Robinson. And then, of course, on Facebook is Steve Robinson, and LinkedIn is Steve L. Robinson. So, yes, anytime, hey, please reach out. If anything I can do to help you, make sure to reach out to me. We'll make it happen.
One more time, bro. How can they get that book, man? Show them that book one more time and where they can cop that book at.
Prayer, Patience, Progress. You can get that. That is you can get it on Linktree, Steve L. Robinson, or you can go to Amazon.com. This is on Amazon as well.
Must continue success. I'm proud of you. The bros are proud of you. Everybody back home in West Virginia are proud of you. And you're truly representing the many graduates that represent that green and white, that Thunder and Herb.
Yes, indeed. Go Herb. Got to do that. Go Herb.
No, you definitely are the embodiment of Black excellence and all of what can be achieved if you just put your best foot forward and continuing, on your ascent. So I wanted to thank you. And also I wanted to thank our viewers and listeners. As you know, every week we're going to continue to bring you proven professionals or rising entrepreneurs. And all of these conversations will definitely help you prepare for takeoff. Steve, thanks for joining us, team.
Appreciate it, Don. You be good.